Hello, Edward.
Hello.
So you were telling me that one of the shows that you adored so far this season, obviously the season has just begun, was Marc Jacobs.
Yes.
Why? What struck your fancy?
I just felt like with this show, Marc brought back the idea of fashion. You know, we've kind of been lost the past, how many seasons in, sportswear and mid-market, sort of mid-level clothes, which is really great and accessible, but he brought back the idea of fashion as a fantasy and the grandeur of it, and that's what I loved about it.
It felt for me like, you're right, it was so much about this notion of like fashion as something that can transform you, whereas for so long it's just been about relevance, hasn't it?
Relevance, is it relevant? Can you wear the black leggings, can you, and he just took it to a place of beauty. And I mean, I like the fact that he touched on Diana Vreeland as sort of being an inspiration to the collection. When you walked in, there was a huge red painting of her, I think her living room. And it was almost like Diana Vreeland seen through the eyes of sort of Beaton and Parkinson, but very much about today as well. And Marc is really clever at taking the sort of references and mixing them together. And I think we really need that right now. We really need to be inspired right now. And he did a really, really great job.
Tell me more about that. It's interesting you say we really need to be inspired right now, because it's hard, isn't it? Because it's such a difficult time, economically and financially. Everyone is obviously trying to sort of play it safe to some respect, but then you're right, fashion can get a bit lost.
Like we said before, everyone's so obsessed with sort of, is it relevant? Is it cool enough? Is it, we've kind of got caught in sort of what people classify as modern or not, that we forget, about the sort of the fantasy and.
Do you think everything's become a bit too daywear focused as well? Is that part of the problem, that kind of the notion of dressing up?
I don't mind daywear if it's, great daywear. Great daywear will be great daywear. But I think, sort of I think people got a little bit scared of, anything being too retro or too, if it was retro, it had to be 70s. Like that's like the right decade. But where we had like great things happening in the 40s and the 50s, and I love that Marc touched on.
But he's very good with time, isn't he?
Oh, he's so good.
Do you think that's one of his biggest skills?
Oh, I think he also realized that sort of people were missing sort of that idea of grand fashion. What made a lot of us get into the industry, the dream. Yeah, well,
it's interesting. We talk a lot at Show Studio about the kind of this idea that like narrative fashion has fallen from favour, and that people don't tell stories anymore with clothes. And I think particularly it's interesting, just like observing New York Fashion Week, particularly from my perspective, like being based in London, is it doesn't seem like it's about the stories. It's all about the pragmatism. But this collection, it was like there were stories in every piece, weren't there?
Yes. I mean, I work for W Magazine, which is essentially a magazine based on the narrative. So we're very lucky to be able to tell stories with sort of clothes. But I think, by him using Diana Vreeland was like looking through, seeing fashion through her eyes, whether it's the 50s or the 40s, and sort of mixing it with things like, I don't know, you see the leather boots, which are so today. Just kind of made it so fresh. And yes, it did make you want to tell stories. It makes you want to dream, I mean, I left the show so inspired.
Did you? That's
so inspired.
Did it make you think of inspired just about that collection, or inspired about kind of different ideas for stories you could pursue?
I mean, there were different ideas. I like the idea of sort of when he put the sheer, sort of like a tweed top, there was the sheer tulle skirt and these boots underneath, which kind of gave me an idea of sort of something slightly S&M. There was the whole idea of sort of the debauched rich woman, a little crazy but always impeccably dressed. So little things from that show sort of kind of got my head spinning.
God, I can't wait to see what you do with it now. I'm really excited.
I can't wait to see what I do with it.
You've got lots of plans already.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll be photographing it a lot. I was really, really inspired, I have to say.
Oh, that's so nice to hear. It's nice to hear someone say they're inspired by fashion. That doesn't happen that much anymore.
Oh, well, it does happen, but
not as
it
much
just gets
as it
rarer and rarer, I guess.
What's going to fix that? What's going to make it come back?
I mean, with shows like Marc just had, and if there are a few designers who still believe in the fantasy of it. So I think, fashion's very cyclical, isn't it?
Yeah, you're right.
So maybe we're entering that cycle now where people want to see.
Yeah, I think there was a time where it didn't feel appropriate.
Yes, it didn't feel appropriate. The world wasn't in the best place. You know, the idea of women walking around in clothes that cost so much money maybe wasn't so great, but I feel slowly, you know,
it's coming back.
It's coming back.
The stories are coming back.
I mean, that's how we got, you know, that's how most of us got into fashion.
Exactly, you're right.
You know, from like, you know, not very wealthy backgrounds, but we had
the fantasy,
the fantasy and the dreams, and
and
I felt that kind of disappeared a bit, and I'm really, you know, I do all I can to sort of keep that alive, and a few others do as well. So I think Marc's show, I mean, every editor I spoke to was like, thank God, fashion. Yeah. You know.
And it's interesting, isn't it, just to kind of contrast it to what he did the season before, which was kind of so rooted in that notion of kind of like pragmatism.
Pragmatism, yes.
It was all about that, and that in a way that makes it even more special because he's so good. You know, he always turns everything on its head.
Yeah, and he's very good at timing, knowing what's coming next. Marc's really great, has got a great sense of pop culture. So, you know, he knows what's coming next, and yes, I think we're ready for something.
Get ready, times are changing.
But you know, the modern girl will always, you know, they can always take it to the modern girl. She'll take one of those jackets and still put it with jeans, but at least it's a statement code. It's something that's, you know, you don't just pick up.
But I think it's what I like about it is it's just not about kind of looking appropriate or fitting in, and I think fashion for so long, you know, it almost became caught up in its own chicness.
Yes, like, you know, the models have to look the same, the hair has to look the same. I mean, I was looking at a show and I thought, I don't remember the last show that had a hairstyle. Yeah,
that wasn't just kind of...
apart from maybe at the haute couture. But, you know, fashion, it's so broad, you know, we should celebrate all that, not just, you know, one side of it, or, you know, if you want to be a magpie, like Izzy was, you should be. If you want to be a minimalist, if you want to be, you know, just wear white shirts and black pants all day, we should celebrate all of it across the board.
But I do feel like the magpies had been ignored and now they're coming back. Yes, and
I feel like it's coming back, you know. I mean, we lost Anna Piaggi and...
Exactly.
You know, but we still have modern magpies like Giovanna Battaglia and Anna Della Russo, and they have to be celebrated too.
Yeah, and also there's women out there like that, you know, who like to dress like that.
Very
and I
much
think that's what's great as well, is I felt like sometimes, you know, this idea of fashion, it had become so reserved and almost got caught up in its own minimalism, and it's so self-aware.
Everything's so edited so perfectly. It's, you know, you have to allow room for mistakes. Yeah,
my favourite thing is Philip Tracy always talks about Izzy Blow and how if she really loved a garment but it broke or she ripped it, she would still wear it, she'd just put a safety pin in it, she wouldn't mind. And I love that idea of something so beautiful was so imperfect and visibly imperfect, but she didn't mind.
And you know, and it's like wear and tear is part of life. Yeah. Aging is part of life, so that should be celebrated. So why not take a safety pin and stick it in the skirt?
And also the best clothes are always the ones that you've had for years, aren't
they?
So it's so nice to see that kind of that
so
idea
warm,
on the
you feel so fuzzy and so warm, and so that's I really was very inspired by.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Thank you, Edward.
Thank you, Lou. Anytime.